Hello and welcome to FMK Anime. I am your host, Meep, joined by my dad, Delaron, and my son, Gilly. Say hello.
Hello, I am Dalaran. For those of you joining us live, thank you, welcome. You already are where you're at. You are already at where you need to be. This is gonna be a rough stream. Anyway, off to a great start. For those of you who don't catch us live, you can catch us on Dalaran Quest on Twitch.tv. Dalaran Quest, Dalaron Quest. You can also catch me on YouTube on Dalaran. I released a voice reel. It's really good. I'm really happy with it. I still have a lot to grow and learn and do, but please check it out if you haven't already. And if you have checked it out and you like it too, share it. It'd be good to get viewership. I really want to do more voice work and honestly be a lot of fun. Gilly, we're opening your cage.
Yes.
Say hi to the nice people looking at you.
Hmm. I think I'm gonna go back to sleep.
God damn it.
Oh no.
Hello. I am the. I am Gilly. I, k- I kept watching Fruit Tart and King's Raid, and I'm still watching King's Raid.
Oh, that's Gilly over there. He's the gray fucker.
And we would like to welcome you to our awards ceremony. As you know, the FMK was each week we started with 10 anime and we ended with 5. Because, there were there was a couple shows that didn't die. At the end of each week, when we would watch the shows, we could cut one anime, and we decided whether we wanted to fuck it or whether we wanted to kill it. And then at the end of the season, which was last week, we decided which shows we were going to marry. And now it's time for the ultimate culmination of all of our hard work, the awards ceremony, where we will be discussing our personal awards, which are awards that, I can't tell them that they're wrong. I can't sit there and tell Gilly that it's wrong of him to want to stick his dick in Castle. I can't sit over there and tell Dalaron it's wrong of him to want to ferociously cuddle Kumaku. But there are some categories where we can tell each other we're wrong, like best main character, and those are the unanimous categories. But I think to kick it off, we should start with our personal categories.
I'm still laughing at what you said about Kumakyu, but yes, I agree. That would be the best.
And our first category of the day is best waifu and husbando. And Dalaron, you go first.
Damn, we're just starting off with this one?
It's the first in the personal award.
Ah, man, this. See, while I think we had like a really good season this year overall, like you said, we have 5 shows left. Yeah, but like. I didn't have a lot of characters that like I fully fell in love with, so I had to like think on this one for a little bit. So like
I
best waifu
I can go
husbando
first.
is personally the way I see the best waifu and husbando award is literally like I will treat it as like because we make the joke and the metaphor that excuse me when the terrible sensation when you feel like a burp coming and also want to yawn and your body is just like confused and doesn't know what's happening and your mainframe starts crashing.
I did that once. I yawned, coughed, and sneezed at the same time and just screamed in the theater.
I have no
Swallowing
mouth yet
your
I must
pride.
scream.
I wish I was joking that I was in the middle of a yawn and a cough and sneeze happened at the same time, so it all came out as a scream.
Rip
Was it
headphone
something like
users.
that?
No, it was just a literal scream. I'm not doing it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Gilly. But yeah, no, man,
You bought
it's
Dalaron a few extra seconds.
this is really tough. This is Meep. You
Oh.
fuck.
I sneezed, okay?
Sneeze away from your fucking mic, asshole.
My head instinctually leans left.
Sneeze directly into the mic. Get water damage.
Just fucking shove it up your ass next time.
My head
Hear the
instinctually leans to
convulsion.
the left because whenever I sneeze, I cover my nose with my elbow.
But go on, Dalaran. What did you choose?
I'm just shaking my head right now. But yeah, this is a really tough one. Out of all like the personal ones, I had to like struggle with this one. So like the way, god damn it, yawn. So the way I like treat the waifu in Husbando Award is like actually like how I think like, oh, like who do I want to marry? Because there were a lot of pretty characters this show, and I had to like I ended up thinking on it, and then I ended up I thought about it, and I ended up with like four options. Atla from Kuma 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 Bear, um, the guildmaster of the port town, because you know she's hardworking, she's fun, she's really pretty, and like
He's not underage.
she's not underage. She is of age. She is an adult. We've had a lot of not adults this season, and yeah, she's a good bean, and she's hot. That being said, oh yeah, so she was cool. She's a little silly. She works really hard. She cares a lot about the people she works with in her town, so I respect that. Um, there's Swindler, who's also like really great character, though I'm not entirely sure of her age group. You know, again, like fought tooth and nail for her ideals and adapted to an incredibly difficult situation, and just is tenacious in achieving what she believes is right, and I can't help but respect that. The other two was William James Moriarty for the same reasons I like Swindler, because he sticks to his ideals and he believes in this just world and punishing the people who have caused the oppression, who exploit other people who they have deemed below them. And yeah, like I really thought of, and honestly, like I had a fourth, but I think like that's pretty much it. It was those were kind of like the three characters that like I kind of was like spinning in my head, and well, I mean, there's also Brawler, but like I just want to be friends with Brawler. I don't see myself like marrying Brawler. There's Gojo. There's a lot of good Primex, but as my sexuality is straight, I decided to lean on the female spectrum. So my waifu award is going to actually go to it's going to go to Swindler, because Swindler is, like I said, she does everything that William Moriarty does, like kind of stands for. She has the same level of resolve as him at the very end, and while William is brilliant, uh, Swindler still has that like morality, that like level of like ethics and like love for humanity at the very end. And that last gambit that she pulled out was absolutely incredible. So while I did marry, Akudama Drive, Swindler gets the waifu award, with my runner up being Atla, because she works really hard for her job, and she makes sure to do what she needs to do.
All right, solid choices. I'll go next. My runner-up is someone that I loved, and I would have loved them to have been the winner, but ultimately not much got done with them in the show. My runner-up is Fron, because she's so lively, she's nice, she can be funny, she's aloof. She overall, she seems like she'd be a great presence to have around, and she's very encouraging. She's smart, and obviously she is beautiful.
She's
So
got
my
two
runner
great
up,
big personalities.
yes, yeah, my runner up is Fron, but I'd be lying to myself if my winner wasn't Gojo, because man, Gojo is such an incredible presence on screen. he has good motivation. He has good drive. He he can also be funny, but he can switch to serious. He's very smart and tactical about the way he goes about things. He's caring, but he's not overbearing. Like he'd be a great person to have around, and ultimately he is my winner of the waifu slash husbando award. I absolutely love Gojo to death. He's fantastic. Gilly.
I just find it funny because y'all had to think about this significantly more than I did. I knew my answer the second I saw that. I knew my answer pretty much immediately. It's just Hoodlum.
Hoodlum.
I just absolutely love Hoodlum. There's a lot of characters I've liked and throughout these shows. Hoodlum's the only one whose screen presence constantly just made episodes for me and made me smile. There's a lot of characters I liked. He was the only one that gave me this consistent just joy having him on the screen.
Yeah.
Just a great character. He's fun.
Trying to find a good hoodlum. Trying to find the right hoodlum picture to throw up right now from all of our screen
You
caps,
kn-
and I'm realizing how many
you
screen caps I have for Akudama Drive.
you know which picture.
That one.
It's the one with him shirtless.
Yes, that one.
And for our viewers at home, for the personal categories, we can choose to have a runner up if we want, but we don't have to. Gilly, did you choose a runner up?
It's just
Or
Hoodlum.
alright.
Just hoodlum.
If
Just
I if I
hoodlum.
the
Just
funny thing is
hoodlum.
if I had to choose a runner up, I don't like my runner up for what I have to say.
Oh no, go
Who
ahead.
is it?
Fushiguro.
Oh.
Oh,
I love Fushiguro. He's a great character. He's hasn't gotten a lot of screen time in a while, but I always enjoy him.
alrighty. Congratulations and the runner-ups of the waifu slash husbando award. Our next award is something near and dear to all of us. The hindsight award. Was there a choice that you would have changed or an action that you would have taken that would have been different? Dalaran, let's start with you again.
What would I have done differently? Ah. I mean, it's mean to say. Actually, no. I actually even more so than I guess my runner-up is locking Majro no Tabi Tabi, but uh, my mistake. I do regret not voting for Fruit Tart on their second or third episode that would have tied it with Megetsu Warhead Zerst and would have made it much more interesting. I definitely regret my vote on that episode in that session because Fruit Tarts, we have shat on you regularly every episode, but I really wanted some music, and I liked your comedy. I really did. And I thought you those wholesome moments when the neighborhood is coming together behind the girls was really nice. But it's like I gave you another chance, and you just took me to a drug den on our next date, and I honestly think this FMK season would have been better if I had voted to kill it that episode and not to give it that one more chance.
Well, with how the wheel has treated us, it probably would have saved both of them again. For me, my runner-up, I would have given Zerst another episode.
Aw.
Just thinking back, I would have I would have given it another episode, just because, as much as episode 3 I hated, I was actually down with episode 1 and 2, but ultimately my emotions got the better of me, and I killed it. But the winner of the Hindsight Award would have been, I would have gone into Ikebukuro with different expectations.
I like that.
Ultimately, my expectations of a non-episodic series hurt it. Like, while I still think it did things very poorly, I think maybe I would have been more forgiving if I went into it with different expectations. But hey, you never know.
All right, I like that. I respect that. I like and respect that answer, homie. Gilly, what's your what what is 2020 giving you in hindsight? Specifically, autumn 2020, the fall anime season.
Hmm. The issue is that in terms of everything we've done with this, there's like nothing that I would do differently or regret doing.
Gilly, come on, man. This is your one chance to like condemn Fruit Tart.
Yeah, I kept watching it and I enjoyed it, so I can't actually. So I don't. There's nothing I can say I regret. If anything, the only thing I regret was not trying to push for Kingsraid more, because I actually have been heavily enjoying it.
Ah.
Like nothing I've done, I've regretted. I have no regrets.
All right.
Uh.
Then I believe that's the Hindsight Award. Now, the next category is, it's a fun one. It's about which show surprised you the most? Which show did you not expect much from, but delivered more than you could have ever asked for? Alaron, let's start with you first.
So for this one, I'm gonna start with my runner-up, and
Okay.
um, man, the run it's tough. It's tough because it's a tie between Yukoku no Moriarty and Akudama Drive. But I'm gonna my runner-up. I'm gonna give to Akudama Drive because it I didn't expect it to blow me away and for it to be so jam packed of things that I enjoyed. I went into it not really knowing what it was going to be, and I was intrigued, which is why it's not getting the first number one spot. Uh, but the show had me teetering two, if not three times, and each time it brought it back. And some of the plot lines surprised me in an over the top anime way, but overall its quality, its choreography, its overall existence, it blindsided me with its overall stellar quality and just with the humor, the characters, the setting, the lights, the lighting, the fighting, everything. It was an overall good time. But despite that, like I said, I still went into there with like a positive expectation. So the show I actually have to give my number one surprise award to will have to be Kuma 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 Bear, because I remember watching the first episode, and I remember when this got locked in, I didn't think much of it. I was like, this is gonna be probably trash or like really dumb or silly, and I'm gonna hate it. And I enjoyed it throughout the whole season with Gilly, just talking about all the cuteness and the wholesome moments, because that's exactly what it was. But the real reason I'm giving this the number one, I'm giving this my top surprise award is because what it actually did when it subverted Moe expectations by going into like surprisingly dark or emotional and sometimes even like mature themes really caught me off guard. Like in the first episode when the kid is literally crying and screaming about, will no one come help save my family, like my village, my town, my family. That was chillingly dark for a show that is pastel moe manga isekai about cute bears. And then there were moments like that throughout the whole show that like caught me by surprise. And the best thing about it was that it never crossed the line. It never made me uncomfortable. It always just fit, but I never expected it. And that's, yeah, Kuma 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 Bear. You are the last surprise of the season. I guess you could say I never saw it coming. Bow bow ba my last surprise.
Fired.
No. Nah, you. Oh, can we give honorable mentions this season? For these awards? I'll give an honorable mention when you guys have your chance because I want to make a joke. But I don't want to take it in case someone else wants to make the joke before me.
Well, my best surprises were interesting. Runner up. I had expectations for this show, and it almost won my best surprise just because of the sheer heights it reached for me. But at the same time, for this category, I can't put it as winner because I had expectations of it. I have to go with Jujutsu Kaisen for my runner-up. It surprised and surpassed any expectation I could have had. But at the end of the day, I cannot put it above my winner because I had an expectation for this. I expected it to be a good shonen from what I saw and what I knew. I've heard a bit of scuttlebutt about the manga, and I've heard I heard it was really good. And the studio that made it, Mappa, they've done really good anime. Like they've done Inuyashiki, they've done. I know there's a couple others. They're just not on top of my head, but the winner is a genre I'm not super into all the time. Mystery. My winner is Yukoku no Moriarty because it surpassed and honestly made me fell in love with the Sherlock property. Like as Kabukicho Sherlock was fun and goofy, that still didn't make me fall in love with the Sherlock property because this is much more a love letter than Kabukicho was. Kabukicho was a comedy. This is a love letter, and it sets the scenes amazingly. It is a fantastic show, and while it was not my Mary, I still absolutely love this show. If it wasn't for the dancing on the bridge episode and the
God damn it.
a little bit of abrupt ending, it may have been my marriage, but who knows? It's what could have been, and I love this show, and it surpassed any expectations I had. This show is my best surprise.
Gilly. Oh, Gilly. I feel like Gilly's like walking on stage right now. Like you can hear the microphone picking up him clicking, like clacking the index cards he has prepared against the podium. Gilly, did you die? Oh, he actually did. All right. Well, in that case, I'm gonna make my joke. So, a quick honorable mention for everyone at home. The universal logo at the beginning of every episode of Magetsu Warhide Zerst. I am 9 episodes in, and every time I hear it, every time my neck snaps to my screen because I just what is this? Why Universal? Universal, we anime now? Gilly returns to us from the Deadlands.
Yes. What is your best?
What?
Gilly, what is your best surprise of this season?
I'm I was kind of split thinking about this, but both for similar reasons. Just wasn't really sure. Uh, it's honestly for me, it ended up between Jesus, ended up between Ikebukuro and King's Raid.
Which one do you think gets the runner-up, and which one actually gets the award?
I'd give the award to Ikebukuro just because it lasted a lot longer.
So why were you
That's the only
stuck?
reason. Just Ikebukuro, I had no idea what to think of when I went into it, and King's Raid, I expected to. You know what? Actually, I have to swap that. I have to give it to King's Raid because I went to King's Raid expecting to hate it.
Fair enough.
I'd have to change. I have to swap that back around. I went to King's Raid expecting to absolutely hate it, and ended up heavily enjoying it after continuing to watch it on my own.
Are you sure
Uh,
you
oh
didn't
yeah,
just fall into Stockholm syndrome?
I'm sure. I've just been the more I've watched it and the more I've seen what they're doing, it's a lot better for me than it was at the beginning. Ikebukuro, I didn't know
Very
what to think about. I didn't know what to expect. And throughout most of it, I thought I knew what to expect. And then near the end, it changed things up on me, and I really enjoyed the transition at the halfway point and to more of and to starting to try to be more uh a more connected story, and that's why it was a hard split for me. But I realize I do need to give it the King's Raid because I went into that expecting to hate it. That's a much bigger
that,
surprise for me.
that is very fair. Well, our next category is on the opposite end. What was the most disappointing show for all of you? A show that you had a shred of expectation for that ultimately failed and faltered. Delaron, you go
Uh-huh.
first. I have a feeling I know what your winner is, but
Uh-huh.
for the sake of argument.
Uh-huh. Fucking okay. I think everyone knows what my winner is going to be. So I'll start off with my runner-up again. My runner-up was going to be Fruit Tart, but honestly, fuck that show. It's not even I mean, it's a disappointment, but it got to the point where it's so bad that it's like beyond disappointment and just it's a failure in my eyes. Um, so I'm gonna give my runner-up to Ikebukuro Westgate Park. Only specifically the gang violence of the show. I thoroughly enjoy the slice of life question mark asterisk, the episodic look into life in Japan, life in Ikebukuro, life in Tokyo. And I enjoyed the like episodic approach to different characters and different problems, highlighting political and social issues within Japan. Um, and while I didn't like every episode of Ikebukuro or every character, I just enjoyed their formula and format. However, I still had expectations for the big gang war, crime, gang payoff at the end, especially with like every inkling of King, and I didn't get it. The show did the fight between King and Koichi, Red Angel Boy, better in its better. The opening did it better, and the actual fight and conflict between the two of them at the last episode was like astoundingly underwhelming. And like we didn't. It didn't do it for me. It really didn't do it for me. I enjoyed the show too much to put this in my number one spot, and because I have stronger feelings about a different show on the list that everyone already sees coming, but I'll get to it in a minute. But yeah, the whole gang war and the role of the G Boys and the Red Angels at the very end was subpar. Just while saying that, I did enjoy the last episode strictly for the final scenes where it shows all those aforementioned characters I brought up ago. But that being said, the biggest disappointment, hands down, without a doubt, wholeheartedly goes to, and again, still not happy about this, fucking Majo no Tabi Tabi. The Journey of Elena. Because, god damn it, if there's any cautionary tale this season about going into a show with high expectations, it's me with this show. I saw the trailer, I saw the absolutely stunningly gorgeous set pieces and locations and sceneries and landscapes, and I was like, this is my lock, because I want to be taken on a fantastical journey across this magically rich world. I expected to reach high fantasy, maybe even dark themes, and while yes, the episode with the little daughter who's a fucking psychopath murderer was good and dark, and yes, there were some beautiful set pieces, it never succeeded in meeting my expectations for fantasy, magic, and just like I remember distinctly in the trailer there being this like city in the trees, built into the trees and amongst the branches and leaves, and we never got that. I thought we were going to see, elves and elemental creatures and something magical, truly magical, but instead we got a fucking pissant, arrogant protagonist who just does nothing but pat herself on the back when the show isn't doing it for her. Oddly uncomfortable, like, relationship dynamics, and, like, moral and philosophical concepts and dilemmas that were never really done as well as they potentially could have. Also, like, awkward fetishization through and through here and there. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, when the show did hit dark themes, it often overdid it for me. It often felt like it was really trying hard to be like, oh, look how sad and dramatic this is. Now, Tabi Tabi, I wish with all my autumn 2020 heart that you were better than what you ended up being. And I'm sorry, I can't forgive the show for just utterly disappointing me.
That's fair. For my runner-up, it was almost Majo no Tabi Tabi. Like, not even 5 minutes ago, it was put down in my notes until I remembered another show that honestly disappointed me more. My runner-up is going to be Noblesse. It was a show that wasn't on our season.
Yeah, me, what are you doing?
Listen, the personal awards are our awards, okay? They aren't the unanimous ones. So, as my personal runner-up, I felt, except for one other show, Noblesse disappointed me more than, because it started off so strong. I remember after watching like the first 4 or 5 episodes, I told you and Gilly, hey, you two should watch this show. This show is actually really good. And then after that, it started to fall off and falter very heavily, and its ending is the non-ending of endings. God, I hope the webcomic was better, because this was just, it fell so flat. Its first few episodes were strong, then it just kind of fell flat, and each fight is not a fight. Its action is its biggest thing, but each fight is a stomp fest. There's no equal fights. And ultimately, my runner-up is Noblesse, but there was a show that disappointed me more. My winner has to be Akudama Drive, because
You what?
talk about shows falling flat. It it doesn't help it's reached such a high peak. It doesn't help because the rest of that just pitters off, and while I still enjoy the show overall, upon reflecting, it was all on the merit of like episode 6 beforehand, some parts in episode 7 through 9. After those, and even during some of those, I was just let down because I had such high expectations for the show. I had such high aspirations and expectations of it after episode 6, and it dropped so many balls. Ultimately, my winner has to be Akudama Drive.
You fuck.
I'm not happy about it. Gilly, what was your most disappointing?
Me and my 6 wives and husbands don't need to take this. We're leaving.
There we go. Well, I have a feeling what some people might expect, but I'm gonna be honest. I can't call something the most disappointing when I had no expectations for it in the first place. And that's why Adachi to Shimamura is not on here.
Figured.
Can't exactly call it disappointing when I had no hope from the beginning. Uh, Obviously, I wasn't sure what to expect with a lot of things. I had things I thought I was gonna like. I had things I was fairly certain I was gonna dislike, and pretty much all ended up being what I thought. But probably my most disappointing ended up being it ended up being, as much as I liked continuing to watch it, it ended up being Fruit Tart, because the beginning of it gave me a good feeling, and I was okay with it on the second episode, and then it very quickly descended into madness.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Would you
Oh,
happen to have a
Fruity.
runner-up, or no?
Not really. I mean, during the earlier part of the season, I might have said, I might have, there might have been some things different. Like, King's Raid wouldn't have been the most surprising and it would have been most disappointing, but it changed my mind as I watched. So, it's really just Fruit Tart not being how I really was hoping it would be after the first couple episodes.
Understandable. But everyone, so this category is going to be similar to Best Surprise, but it's different in a way. This category is Best First Impression, whereas Best Surprise is more overall over the entire course of the show. Best First Impression is like the best first 2 or 3 episodes. Which gave you the strongest first impression? Dalaron, you go first.
Hmm. Hmm. This was another tough one. It certainly wasn't King's Raid or Magetsu or Zurst, I'll tell you that. Now, this is specifically best first impression, right? Not strongest first impression?
Yeah, which show gave you the best? Because strongest can also mean, which show gave you the worst, but this one is strongest. Or I mean, this one is best. Which show
Yeah,
gave you the
the
best?
strongest impression would definitely be Ikebukuro because I just didn't expect how political it was. But I won't say that was the best first impression for me. So, like, for this award, I'm like, I cycled through all the anime we watched this season, and uh, it's tough. I think as a runner-up, I have to give. Yeah, I really don't know. This is one of those full transparency. I kind of left this up. I didn't actually wrote my answers down for this specific award because I couldn't make up my mind, and I didn't expect Meep to keep throwing me under the bus by making me go first each time. So now I'm trying to think of it on my way. I don't know. I guess at the spur of the moment, the best first impression that I had, I'll give it to Adachi Toshimomura.
As your runner-up or winner?
No, winner.
Okay.
I remember immediately watching Adachi Toshimomura and just I didn't know where the story was going to take me, but I knew what I was into. I knew what I was in for. The alien was the one thing I didn't really know, but like from the art style, the metaphor, the psychological and emotional foreshadowing and metaphoric expressions, I remember watching that and being like, yeah, cool, this is really good. Uh, yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it. Adachi Shimamura is a fantastic story about uh, uh, adolescent romance, and as such, it really sets it up nicely in the beginning, and the characters stay pretty consistent while having their respective growth. So that's something I've always really enjoyed. So, and thinking back, I think that show really, really, really set the pace really well. And I guess my runner-up would have to be. I have to give it to Jujutsu Kaisen. While I don't think the first episode was its strongest, I do think it showed that a lot of love and attention was going to be put into the setting, the set pieces, the animation. We got a good little bit of comedy. We got. I can't give it to Jujutsu Kaisen because the friends that we saw in the beginning episode never show up again, and so it just makes it kind of pointless. And the grandfather's death happened on the first episode too, so I guess it was a little rushed, but otherwise, I liked it. I liked the show a lot, and it kind of got me set up and curious about the rest of the season.
All right. For me, my runner-up, it had a strong first 3 episodes, but the reason why it's not winning is because its first episode it's mainly an introductory episode, which is fair enough. It's not really connected to much other plot. It's just it was mainly set there as a way to introduce us to Moriarty in Yukoku no Moriarty. And the second episode, I actually wasn't as warm on as you two were. I still liked it, don't get me wrong, but I didn't watch it at a opportune time because I was confused because I thought they burned down the orphanage, not the house. And episode 3, easily its strongest episode, and it almost won, but ultimately, I had to give my best first impression to Akudama Drive.
I saw that coming.
I I know I labeled it as my most disappointing, but this is purely basing it, for me at least, off the first 3 episodes for best first impression. And those 3 episodes, I was on the ride the entire time. I was driving with Akudama Drive. Episode 1 through 3 were fantastic. The fight in episode 2, the rush I got from the prison break in episode 1, the absolute comedy in episode 2 with Cutthroat throwing his knives through the barrier and going, "That was my last knife," and Brawler just breaking the podium, just going, all right, there's a hole in the barrier now. There's a hole in the barrier now. Fucking, just, it was so good. It introduced me so well to what the show was going to be for the next 3 episodes. And yeah, Akudama Drive is my winner of best first impression. Gilly, the mic is handed to you.
Oyo, oyo, oyo.
Uh, Well, my winner of first impression is, for me, it's just Yukoko no Moriarty. It was very I just, it's what I expected of it, and it's what I wanted of it, and I said it multiple times. That show, I knew what I wanted and expected of it going in, and it just did everything that I wanted. And and its start was just solid for me. It's exactly what I was expecting. A very good, just bring in for everything. My runner up is my runner up is Fruit Tart because it had a really good first impression, and then it, yeah.
Well, that's fair. Alrighty. Congrats to the winners and runners up. And finally, we are at the hardest category for me because other than two moments, I can't remember a time any of the shows really made me laugh. We are at the the category of best laugh. Daron, you go first. I can hander a guess at what your first impressions are going to be.
I this one's weird because like there wasn't. I don't know. Like I guess this category. I mean, this is the category I had the most difficulty with because I don't think I had the. It's like I don't look at shows as like if it's a comedy, it's a comedy. But I kind of like look at things like inclusively, like as an entire whole thing. So when I had to like isolate the best laugh, I don't know. I really don't have a lot that comes out to it. Like there are moments that I laughed because of like meta knowledge, like when Shimamura does have a dad, and I laughed in my head. I'm like, ha, meep. Uh, and you know, like the moments of me and Gilly relishing the Kumas while you reviled them. But in terms of the show, like I guess I guess I'll give the runner up to Fruit Tart because despite the many gripes I have with that show, I do think its visual comedy is on point. I mean, I guess my runner up is a tie between Jujutsu Kaisen's visual comedy and uh, the Fruit Tart, and I would be inclined to give it to Jujutsu Kaisen because I just don't like Fruit Tart. It's okay. I'm allowed to be biased. These are the personal categories. As far as like the actual,
Any? Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
what's up? No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say any specific moment or just Jujutsu Kaisen in general.
Itadori getting pulled out by Gojo in the middle of his fight with Jogo was really good. Itadori just watching the movies was really good. Some of the jujitsu strolls, like yeah, it was just good comedy with Fruit Tart. Whenever the girls go into that really like simplistic, it's not like stick figures. They do like this little long triangle for their body and like this little chibi head for them. Like not even chibi head, like really simplified head. I always like would get a smile or a chuckle out of me. But as far as like the best laugh, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a weird thing. I think I'm gonna have to give it to Akudama Drive again because the scene where Brawler is taking over the blimp, the like airship, and the yo hey as he like just freaking fighter intimidate faces smashes through a window was amazing, followed by Doctor and Courier being like dumbass shithead, and then Hoodlum being yeah, but he's our like I love this dumbass shithead. Is was still to this day like when I think about like the funny scenes of this season, that's where my mind goes. So Akudama Drive, you do it all yet again because you have gotten some like amazing comedy moments with your characters because of how strong your characters are.
Alrighty. For me, my runner-up, because I remember it at the time, and I remember it was like there. Now I'm thinking about, there are a few scenes I can remember laughing at, but at the same time, the girl throwing the bottle at the shop owner in Ikebukuro, I remember at the time just thinking, "You absolute fucking child! You are precious, and I don't want anything to happen to you." It was funny.
I forgot about that. Yeah. When he took her to the drug herb store, she just panics and throws the bottle. Yeah, yeah. Is that your runner-up or your winner?
That's my runner-up. My winner, though, has to be the Jujutsu Stroll penis.
Of course.
Because it's such a good, it spawned such a good fucking meme template for me, where I just sent that to my friends and go, "Will you open the note? Because you told me that you did that." And I was like, "Oh, this is great." I sent
glad,
it to a
yeah.
couple of friends.
I'm glad you like that joke.
And it's just, I believe Gojo doing this. I can believe Gojo would do this. And now in hindsight, liking Nanami as much as I do, knowing as much as I know about Nanami, it's great. Gojo is just a troll towards him, and it's fantastic. Gilly, do you have any specific moments? What is your best laugh?
Actually, while you were talking, I went to grab a screenshot of my best laugh, which is
send it my way.
it's in the general. It
Oh.
was literally on the final episode of Fruit Tart. I can't help it, but the best laugh I got out of this entire season was the fucking censored Mickey Mouse ears. I couldn't. I just love it. One of the last things they do is they make a fucking Disney joke with censored mouse ears.
Not gonna lie, that's pretty good.
It got me good. Like I loved it.
No, no.
Oh. Hmm? What was that?
There are weewoos.
Oh. But honestly, uh my runner-up for best laugh is kind of hard to pick because my runner-up is a lot of just different moments that happen throughout Kuma Bear. But I think I don't know why it made me laugh like it did, but just our first appearance of uh Yuna's obsession with eggs, I think got one of the best laughs out of me as well.
Egg.
Her egg obsession is just something I always loved, and the first time we see it was a real funny moment for me and really got a good laugh. But that would have been my winner, but the fucking fruit tart censored mouse ears. That was like the best
Alright.
fucking joke they made.
No. I have to entirely agree with you because honestly, that's a pretty that's pretty good. Like no lie, no lie. Like I stopped watching it obviously, but I get where you're coming from with it.
The funny thing is they really went into that joke too, because they had a panning shot where everyone was talking about it and it was still showing Ho Ho from the back, and she was still holding them, and they went through the process of making sure to animate them censored from the back as she was still holding them. And that was real dedication to the gag, and I appreciate it. Oh,
Yeah,
it was nice.
They
that
commit.
does sound funny. But
Yeah, that was it for me.
those are our individual personal categories. Now it's time for the bloodbath of the unanimous categories. And let me hop over to the nominees page and we will start with our Best Main Character Award. Nominated for Best Main Character, we have Itadori from Jujutsu Kaisen, Moriarty from Yukoku no Moriarty, Adachi from Adachi to Shimamura, Shimamura from Adachi to Shimamura, Swindler from Akudama Drive, and Makoto from Ikebukuro Westgate Park.
These are gonna be difficult, guys.
They are. Let's try and get some easy cuts out of the way first, because some of these nominations are to give people their due. That even though we three don't think they'll live, or even though we three don't think they'll make it, just show characters that all three of us think deserve a spot in the limelight. Adachi. Adachi and Shimamura are two halves of one whole, as you said. I don't see either of them making the list because they're at their strongest when they're either together or bouncing off of someone else, like Nakafuji and Hino.
I mean, yeah, that's right. But I thought about it since we talked about it and did our nominations, and I would feel comfortable taking off both Adachi and Shimamura. Just because they are so integral to each other, and I would be hard pressed to being able to choose one over the other.
Yeah, like I don't get me wrong, I love Adachi. She's a adorable little mess of anxiety and social awkwardness. But her growth is very believable and steady, and there are even some things she doubles down on, like her, you know, I wouldn't call it, I guess it's kind of a pseudo obsession, but her possessiveness of Shimamura, she does double down on it, and it's very interesting to see her development and the way that she sort of gets more backbone throughout the series. And I enjoy her and Shimamura, like the way they handle her depression. That is what it is. Her own feelings, her own anxiety. It's very good, but at the end of the day, they are two halves of one whole. The show is called Adachi to Shimamura, not just Adachi or not just Shimamura.
Yeah, yeah. Like they are incredible characters because they're so well written and so accurate to reality. To like they really feel like the person who wrote this understood what they're going through. Excuse me. It really feels like they understood what the characters were going through, and as such, um, it kind of makes this decision difficult because they are fantastic characters, but best main character and one over the other, I wouldn't be able to do it. Gilead, ask your opinion, but I know that you are not a fan of the things of the Adachis nor the Shimamuras, and probably the things that we are saying about them.
What?
Yep, sounds about right. So, do we all agree that while they are great characters and also just like great together and apart, we just can't pick one or the other and just set them to the side? Hello?
Meep is having some technical difficulties.
Well, Meep is fucking dead again. Seems we can't have a single stream without Meep dying on us. Alright, Gilly, what do you think about the best character nominations? Who do you feel, well, honestly, either strongest or weakest about?
Was a long list of names, and I think that's the only one we don't have written down because I can't find it anywhere. Or I already
It's in
forgot.
nominees. If you look on in our personal Discord, it's in nominees under Fall 2020.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Meep.
yeah. Oh, you told them. You told them that I died. How dare?
I mean, when someone asks you a question and you don't answer, an explanation must be given, and I prefer to tell the truth.
Hmm. How dare? Uh, it's nominees award. Sorry. But yeah. Uh, so we're we're not. I'm assuming we're all in consensus that Adachi and Shimamura don't make the list.
Yeah, like I said, I do think they're fantastic, but I think it's since in order to not choose one over the other, they'll have to be like shelved.
All right. Who is another easy cut?
I don't think there really is
Do
easy
you
ones.
two think? Do you two think Makoto hangs with the other three on this list? Obviously,
Yes.
my feelings on Makoto are known, but like, do you two think that he would beat both Swindler, Moriarty, and Itadori?
I personally, for me, the weakest link at this point is Itadori. I do like the character a lot. To be clear for those of you listening, all of these characters made the list over all the other characters because we love them all to death. So us not choosing them or saying the weakest we feel about it's like me choosing between like my 5 favorite dishes and just how I feel about it in the moment. And in this moment, I feel like Itadori, just while interesting and dedicated and a good bean, he still is kind of like a simplistic musclehead
I
with a lot of like emotional depth to like a lot more emotional depth that he gives off in the beginning to him, but still just not enough to like really take home the gold.
I completely disagree. For for me, I'd put him like for me, he's my top choice of winner because of this list, he's the only one that gets actual character development and complexity to him. Well, okay, no, Swindler gets character development, but she also gets character development. But I forgot about Swindler.
So if we're talking about our top nominees, I think my top vote is Swindler for both like just clear distinct characterization and character traits, and also for like um just their own arc, because I didn't really talk about it when I chose her as waifu, but like Swindler has an incredible character development arc that is concise, realistic, coherent, and ultimately satisfying, even in her death. Spoilers, I guess. You know what show you're in. If you're watching this instead of all the other episodes, then what is yous doing? Well,
The
yeah. What's up, Gilly?
well, I mean, personally, the two cuts I'd go for is Itadori and Swindler.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Really,
we are in a Mexican standoff.
I just feel very strongly about Itadori because his depth and complexity we saw in episode 12 and 13, like for a shonen especially, was astounding. Any other shonen would have had him reconcile and go, no, I'm still going to give people ideal deaths. But he reconciles that, and now with the guidance of honestly Nanami, he's very he's got a new motive. Not it's not new motivation. He still wants to try and guide people to proper deaths, but he's no longer the I won't kill. He's very much willing to kill. He even says that his new goal is to kill Mahito.
I don't think he's very much willing to kill. I think he's willing to kill this one thing because of his own personal feelings and because of what happened to Junpei and to protect other people from Mahito. And I agree that is a good arc, but like I don't feel it's as deep as you've made it out to be. Like you say, it's impressive for shonen. It still feels shonen to me, to the point where like at the end, the last scene with him in episode 12 just felt repetitive. Like I literally thought like, okay, cool. Like we've heard him reconcile the same way and just doing it a little bit differently each time, 3 times this season already. Once with the special great curse, which was really good, and then once with Sakuna, which was interesting, and then with Mahito. By the time, well, the visual representation of it was like amazing. I just I just don't feel as strongly about him as you do, unfortunately.
I disagree. I thought it was done phenomenally. That character development and character growth was fantastic, and I disagree. I think he has a new because that whole conversation with him and Nanami is Nanami explaining you're going to have to kill, and that's been the entire like crux of this first season has been, at least in my eyes, Itadori learning death is inevitable and it's going to happen, and you now have a control over it. That's been the entire theme of this first season to me is you are now in a world where people have control over life and death. How are you going to use it? And that entire final conversation with him and Nanami, at least to me, it seemed like Itadori is now he's no longer soft boy. He's got a new reconciliation. He's willing to kill Mahito, and I'm sure willing to kill other curses because that's been the entire point that all of the characters have been trying to teach him up to this point. Gojo, the principal, Nanami. Like this show, in a weird way, is about grief and dealing with death.
Yes, but I would argue that his quote unquote soft boy aspects are the things that made him the interesting shonen protagonist that he was in the beginning. And if he's
No, it
already
just made him like
changed
a
it
real
all
man.
in one half arc, like one half, like in the mid season of 12 episodes, like what does that really say for his character?
But they didn't completely change it. He still wants to lead regular people to regular deaths, and the thing is you say that it kept him away from all other shonen protagonists. The fact that he didn't want to kill makes him much like most other shonen protagonists.
So you.
Like,
Wait, I'm confused. What do you want him to? Fucking. You want Itadori to become Murder Boy?
I don't. I want to see character growth out of him, which is what we saw. I don't want anything specific out of it. I want to see how his character develops. I want to see if it's natural, which it felt very natural to me, and I very much liked what we got for his character development, how he's changed overall. The because characters that stay flat, stay stagnant aren't, to me at least, aren't overly interesting and kind of get boring, which I'm always the guy that will say main characters are usually the worst part of their shows. And I honestly, Itadori is one of the best parts of the show for me. He's fantastic. His character acting, his voice acting, the way they use him, his character development and character growth, I thought was all natural and very well done.
What do you think on this, Gilly? You think Itadori, both Itadori and Swindler are a weak choice when it comes to getting the gold?
It just comes down to what character, we, which characters we thought were the best main characters, and I like Itadori. I don't think he's the best main character. That's just as simple as that for me. And there's really no, I'm really not leaning any other way on that. I was iffy on even having him on the list on the first place. I just didn't want to like argue about it.
Well, where does your vote then lie?
It's hard to say, but I guess I lean more towards Moriarty, but I'm very split between Moriarty and Makoto.
Between Makoto and who? Moriarty?
Yeah. I lean heavier towards Moriarty.
I
Then
think in a competition between Moriarty and Makoto, I would also lean more so to Moriarty because, especially
same.
in the last episodes, Moriarty shows that he has a depth, an emotional depth that I didn't expect from him in his this almost like romantic, not romantic, this almost affectionate manner that he speaks about Sherlock. There's almost this like tragic understanding of him where it's like if they had met under different circumstances he would have loved to have Sherlock be part of his like cabal, but he needs Sherlock to be this great man to bring the world into the place that Moriarty is designing it into, and he understands that he can't be they won't stay friends at the very end of it. So that's actually, to me, that's a very good argument for William James Moriarty. And whereas William James Moriarty has that, I do think Makoto, unfortunately, while he's an incredibly strong character, and we would not be able to experience Ikebukuro Park if it wasn't for Makoto's own range and depth, we don't really see a lot of development with Makoto, and we don't get a lot of Makoto's personal life. I really like Makoto. I like his personality, I like his character, but we don't really get the meat and potatoes of him. We just get him being. Like, we don't know how he grew up. We got a couple of inklings, but we don't know his backstory fully. We don't know how him and King became friends. And I think ultimately I would argue that that would put William James Moriarty over Makoto.
The way I see Makoto is it's he has a nice exterior, but there's nothing much interior that we get with him.
Yeah, sad
I
but
would
true.
also, if you two are strong about cutting Itadori from the list, I am completely in agreement that Moriarty would be my top pick after that. Then Moriarty would definitely be my top pick, and I know Swindler is your top pick, Dal, right?
Yeah, Dal. Swindler, I. We talked about Swindler in terms of, like, the arc. Like, we made Akudama. When we were watching Akudama Drive, we were making. We were making. Whatchamacallit? We were making. Black Lagoon. There it is. We were making Black Lagoon references all the time, and how we liked Swindler and how we were terrified that she was just going to end up being like Rock. And this show did that kind of arc and character transformation so much better than Black Lagoon. And I like Black Lagoon. Like,
Yeah.
Swindler didn't just become a fucking hard-boiled edgelord out of nowhere. She kind of picked up the mannerisms and started talking back to people while still staying a sweet. Like, at the very end, like, they're like, sirens, go ahead.
Then between the characters that we have less then, because for all transparency, I am nixing Itadori from the list because it's 2-1 for that, for me at least. So I already argued for Itadori. So out of what we have left, I'd put Moriarty on top and Swindler below Moriarty.
My issue with Moriarty, just to argue about everyone, right? Like, Moriarty is a fantastic main character, but he is much weaker without his ensemble. Lewis isn't just the quieter brother, he is the shadow to William's light. Uh, And if we were to isolate all these characters, well, I mean, I guess this is a poor argument for this case because the only character that's really good in isolation are the two. Adachi and Shimomura are already set to the side. We love them too, but they can't win this category. The only other character on this list right now is Makoto. He shines on his own, but even then, I mean, every character shines through interacting with other characters. But I feel like even Swindler. No, I feel like Swindler can do standalone, but she wouldn't be there without the support of her ensemble. But would William, would Itadori, and would I'm missing someone. Uh, yeah, would William and Itadori shine without their ensemble, without their support cast?
I I think Itadori. I think he does. He's still pretty good on his own. Like his fight with Mahito shown really good. Like even though it was tropey shonen, like he had holes in him. The entire like Yuji's rage, that entire scene was phenomenal. Like Sukuna and Mahito laughing at him, where Itadori was fully alone in that moment. Something that we haven't really touched on with that scene. He was alone there with technically three antagonists, because Nina tuckered Yuji, Mahito, and Sukuna in that moment technically
Fuck
was
you for
working
making that
against
joke
him.
again.
You were one of you two was the one that made it originally, sir.
Oh, it was me, and I have no regrets.
Yeah, like
I said I have
I
no
don't-
regrets from this season. I will hold that to my grave.
yeah, and I don't think we've really touched on how truly alone in that moment Itadori was, how in peril he was, because Sukuna has made it clear that he doesn't care who dies as long as Fushiguro lives, which is still interesting in its own right. And even then, I think it's a part of Itadori's strength and Moriarty's strength to an extent that that it doesn't matter who they're with; they bounce off of the other characters extremely well, which I think speaks well to their character. Like Itadori and Gojo bounce off of each other really well. Moriarty and Sherlock bounce off of each other extremely well. And when I think to like Swindler or Dachi, Shimamura, even Makoto, I don't. There are certain characters that they bounce off of okay with. I can't think of specific characters that they bounce off of as strongly as the other two. Like, what character would you say Swindler bounces off of the best, other than Little Sister? Oh, okay, I guess Little Sister. She bounces off of Little Sister pretty well.
Little Sister, Courier, and then just the world itself is what makes Swindler such a remarkable character for me.
To be fair, she may as well be alone when Courier's on screen.
Courier. We all agree that Courier is not the best side character, main character, ensemble
He
character.
does nothing.
As much hate as it might get me, I would not pick Swindler as number one main character, but you're talking about bouncing off characters. Honestly, her interactions, even including the finale of with of their interactions, it was actually fairly good with Cutthroat.
Oh yes, the way she just
They were-
fully
They were
gave
very
up on
they
him
were
at the
actually
very end.
they were actually very good interactions between the two of them, and honestly, as much as I didn't like all the characters dying, the moment with Swindler and Cutthroat had to be was an extremely good moment, especially for both characters.
That is true. So, of what we have left, how do you two feel about Moriarty Swindler?
Honestly, I think it's good.
How about you, Gilly?
I can I can I can give into that, yes.
So are we gonna give Moriarty? Are we gonna give Swindler the runner-up and Moriarty the top position?
Yeah, yeah. That's why Moriarty I would put above Swindler.
Like
So
I'm not gonna sit here and try and fight for Makoto because he did have a very baseline personality that it was how he maintained throughout the entire series, except for that one episode, which I'm not going to go into detail on. Just, but he was very consistent, and he didn't really change that much. But that's I don't know his base personality. The personality he had is what I enjoyed about him. He was kind. And he wanted to work things out, and he wanted things to be good and people to be happy, and I
but
enjoyed that.
but Gilly King says that it's fake kindness. No. I still don't know what King was going on about.
That was definitely one of the weakest points
Sure.
of the show.
Well, look, I actually didn't. I actually kind of understood that because you can actually tell on certain episodes before and after that Makoto's interactions with certain characters, he definitely didn't like them, but he helped them because there would be other issues if he didn't. He
I
was
guess I
kind to
can
them,
see
and
that with
he was kind and he was personable with people he definitely did not that he definitely had a bit of a distaste for.
I feel like that whole King line about, Makoto is not such a nice guy. After all, if it wasn't him being, like, facetiously antagonistic, like, just talking shit to Makoto, uh, it, Makoto reacted to it way too seriously, which made the possibility of that seem very slim. I feel like the only reason that's there uh, is to validate or to like prepare us, the audience, into Makoto calling Shadow on Night, so that Shadow breaks Night's fucking knee open.
Possibly. Like I said,
Because we
won't
get
argue for Makoto
nothing.
because I won't
Sorry.
argue for Makoto because he did not have other than like his baseline personality. There wasn't much to him. I just enjoyed him.
Yeah, and like the more we're talking about it, I do really enjoy Makoto. I fought for Makoto to be on the list as well. The show wouldn't be without Makoto. If anything, he is out of all the characters on the list right now. I think Makoto is like the main character. With like William being a close second, but like William wouldn't be able to exist without his team. Makoto is just like the main character of his show. But all that being said, I'm remembering many times throughout this season where we looked back on the episode and we're like, "What the fuck is happening? Like, why is he okay with this?" Like, specifically the YouTuber episode, the dude that would fall downstairs for clout and pull pranks and eat onions in public. The Logan, that's not. Well, I'm not gonna make that joke because he fucked up in Japan.
Gege no Kitaro already made that joke.
Yeah, but fucking, there were just moments in Makoto's character that seemed asynchronous to the way he was generally in the show. So, yes, chat, I do almost keep saying VTuber. They have taken over my goddamn lexicon. But yeah, so unfortunately, as much as I'm not happy to say it, Makoto falls short too. Hell, because of that, I think I'd actually put Makoto below Itadori. But do we have any critiques of William?
For what he is, no. If any criticism I could give William would be criticism towards the archetype of character he is, which I can't fault because he's very, from what I can tell, he's very accurate to the character of Moriarty.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, my only issue with William is that I wish he would be. I wish we got more depth from him. Like, and that's not saying he's not deep as is. I wish we dove more into it because the way the show has him, he's kind of like this theatric or like theater director where he's like putting scenes together with this like dramatic flair, and it's a little silly at times where, at each moment he has to go, "I, William James Moriarty, the crime consultant, have brought you to your doom." And I was like, okay, this is silly, but I'm not mad about it. I just wish we got more of his inner mind workings and more of the beautiful emotional expression we had when he was talking about Sherlock, which ship.
Honestly, I think they did it just enough anymore, and I think it would take it away from something else and kind of soured some other aspects of the show. That's just my personal take.
Fair enough. But I think we've made our decisions. Gilly, is there anything else you want to add about any of the other characters in their critique and or in their defense?
I mean, other than two characters that were immediately taken off of this list, I liked pretty much all these main characters. It just, like I said, for me, it just came down to just the ones I enjoyed the most. And as much as I like Itadori and Swindler, it's hard for me to try and put either of them as a number one.
Mm. Yeah, and listen, I love Itadori. To me, he was the best main character this season, but I'm willing to concede with Moriarty as winner. I am more than happy because Moriarty would have been my second pick.
So we're doing Swindler with the silver, Moriarty with the gold?
Yep. Our winner of Best Main Character Fall 2020, Moriarty from Yukoku no Moriarty, and our runner-up, Swindler from Akudama Drive. Congratulations to the both of you.
Yeah, I'm happy. Honestly, I'm also happy with that conclusion. Again, these choices are going to be difficult, chat, and there isn't really a right or wrong answer, just what we feel collectively. Every single character, nomination, duo, team, concept here is because it's the best of the best this season. And this season is really good.
Yeah. Our next category, with a whopping 8 nominations.
I'm not sorry.
Supporting character. Oh.
I'm not sorry.
Best supporting character: Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, Junpei from Jujutsu Kaisen, Hoodlum from Akudama Drive, Akudama Drive from Brawler from Akudama Drive, Fina from Kuma 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 Bear, Albert from Yukoku no Moriarty, Tarumi from Adachi Toshimomura, and Fran from Majo no Tabi Tabi. I think there are a couple of more easy cuts in this one to tackle. So
yeah, can we just address the pretty green-eyed elephant in the room?
Fran?
Albert.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Albert was on here purely of our wanting of more from him. I actually,
Yep.
behind the curtain, I argued against him being on this list because personally I think the fact that we're putting him on here because we wanted more should speak to how little the show used him. But hey, we eventually decided to put him on the list as to give him his due, because Albert of the side characters was fun and he did have a really good personality, and episode 3 and 2 were extremely strong. He was the main character of those episodes.
If he'd gotten used more, I would completely argue for him to be the number one. But he didn't. He got used very little after the immediate episodes, and it saddens me.
Yeah, from episode 1, I've been saying that, like, oh man, Albert's really interesting, and it's this character I really know nothing about. I really am curious to see how he plays into it, because he can do so many things. And he did nothing. Except for that golden line. Oh man, maybe that should have been maybe that should have won my best laugh. But him just being like, "Oh my God, is that a murder on the stage, Lord Anders?" And I'm like, Mike, good job, you did well, son. You did well.
Yeah. So, are we all agreed cutting Albert?
Yeah.
We
Honestly.
wanted to give our boy the due that the show didn't give him. So I do love him.
Oh, I doubt it, but here's hoping that part 2 might at least do a little bit more with him.
Hopefully. Like we got a little bit more of Lewis with this last episode, so maybe. The next easy cut I see. Let's talk about Tarumi. Listen, she was great. It was very nice to see her and Shimura together, but ultimately, she was a device used to further Shimamura's development and realization of self. But I don't get me wrong, I really like Tarumi. I never read anything romantic in how she was with Shimamura. I thought she just wanted to be a friend, and I liked that aspect of someone hanging out with Shimamura that just wants to be her friend. I really enjoyed that, but at the same time, I I don't think she compares to specifically four other characters on this list.
I This one's tough because I personally disagree. That I personally think Tarmi did play a very good role in the show.
Yeah, I thought I thought she played a good role in the show too. It's just all like listen, my want of or not want, but my reason of cutting her is that while she's a side character, she's also a minor side character.
I will agree to cut Tarmi off because, and this is kind of unfair, because I'm actually happy this didn't happen, but she ended up not playing as much of an antagonistic role towards Adachi's and Shimamura's relationship as I had simultaneously hoped and feared she would. I think Tarumi was a delight. I disagree with you. I think Tarumi. Well, that's the thing. This show is very blushy, and I sometimes it's difficult even for me to tell whether it's like sexy, like sexy soft blushy, or like just anxious, happy, like emotionally overwhelmed blushy. Because it uses both a lot and sometimes interchangeably. So, but just to give Tarumi her due, like she was an important part because she adds to the drama of the show. Because I'm almost 100% certain that the author intended the audience to see Tarumi and just go, "Oh no, love triangle! Like a new challenger approaches." And or at least be like, oh no, who's she and how is she going to influence the story? And she has this really healthy effect on Shimamura that helps Shimamura kind of like realize how she has changed and how much her own depression has affected who she is, how she enjoys life, and who she wants to be in life. Like without Tarumi, I don't think like Tarumi is the, not to take it away from Adachi, I think Adachi helped Shimamura have the capacity to realize this, but Tarumi was the actual driving force, the influence to get Shimamura to become how she was at the end. Laughing, cherishing her friendships, realizing what is important and what isn't, and that some things are worth her trying to accomplish. And because of that, Tarumi's on this list.
And if she played any sort of love triangle role, I think she would probably be in the antagonist category. I floated that idea around because we thought she was going to be in a love triangle aspect at first, but ultimately she wasn't. So, but if she did, she would have been an antagonist to the relationship. So,
I'm actually glad that Tarumi didn't become that. I'm actually really happy. So, I don't see Tarumi winning. I know Gilly probably doesn't really have much of an opinion on this since it's Adachi to Shimamura.
Honestly, until you started describing, I didn't know who the hell this was. She is utterly forgettable for me.
There it is. So unfortunately, we have to let another green-eyed person off the list.
Well, can we do 3 for 3? Fran.
Is Fran also green-eyed?
I think so.
Huh.
But for show she was in, she was the best part of her show. I loved her. She was my waifu. But at the same time, in Majo no Tabi Tabi, that isn't an extreme accomplishment, being the best character of the show.
When the main character fucking sucks.
Yeah. Ultimately... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'll do my argument when you're done.
I was just gonna say, ultimately, for the same reason I'm for cutting her, is I don't think she stacks up against like Gojo, Hoodlum, Brawler. I don't think she stacks up against any of those three.
I have to agree. Fran, I think, was our favorite part about the show, except for Quick Sandwich. Quick Sandwich was best part of the show. Is it too late?
Who?
Is it too late to nominate Quick Sandwich?
I don't know who you're talking about. So
Quick Sandwich was the one that was, if I remember correctly, wasn't she the one that was in love with the king? Or
The
was he a
king of, and she
prince?
was silent.
He was
The king
yeah.
of truths. Quick, look at the stream.
Yeah.
You'll see who I'm talking about.
Yeah, she's the one that was like just head over heels for the king, who couldn't speak because she did the wish that made the ugly, what they all kept referring to as the ugly sword that made everyone tell the truth.
The fucking Dragon
you know,
Quest ass sword.
I feel like it would be mean. You know, though, Dalaran, I feel like it'd be mean spirited to nominate her just for her to get cut. So.
Well, she's already been nominated. She's on the screen. She says yes to winning this award, and now we're going to go back to talk about Fran.
Hmm.
Hey, Meep, could you quickly drop the nomination list per award as they come up into chat so that people following along can also think about all the characters as I make my point right now?
Oh,
Thanks, bud.
I don't know how well this is gonna work on phone. Is the thing.
Just copy and paste it from the Discord. So, when it comes to Fran, I like Fran. We like Fran. Chat likes Fran. We all like Fran. But do we like Fran because of her Starry Night hat and cloak? Yes. But do we like Fran because she's a great character, or because compared to Elena, she's a great character? And honestly, I'm kind of leaning toward the latter. I mean, Fran was kind of shitty in the beginning towards her. Don't get me wrong, Fran's a good girl. She does care. And she's cute in her like flightiness and her. But I also like love her. I love how much she like gets excited and enjoys nature and just like sunsets and like butterflies. Like she enjoys small things in life, and as you know, and she's a good girl. But at the same time, side characters are important for both their own agency, which no one really has except for, I guess, Fran and Saya in Majo no Tabi Tabi. And Saya has more agency as a character, in my opinion, than Fran does. And second of all, we pick the best side. I pick the best side character through who's had the most influence on the main character. And my issue time and time again in the show is that Elena doesn't fucking grow. She doesn't change. And while I really like the first episode, Fran and Elena, it doesn't stay. The show doesn't do anything with it. And ultimately, like Elena is at her best when she's with Fran, and Fran is like great at like teaching. But like, man, it just, when I think, like Meep said, when I think about the other characters that we have up for nomination, Fran pales in comparison, mainly because we only see her 2-3 times. Well, yeah, 3 times, maybe 4 down at the end of the show, but I don't know it. She doesn't actually influence Elena's character all that much because Elena is just Elena, and I guess there really isn't that much to her when I really think about it, despite really enjoying her as a character. Like, she doesn't need to be super deep, but the show also tries to make this air of mystery around her, which we all called it. She knew Nike, the traveling witch that inspires Elena, and the show doesn't do anything with it. So, unless Gilly, you feel
Nike.
strongly about Fran,
No. I know what
Alrighty.
characters I feel strongly about.
and there it is.
Okay. Now, compared to the 4 above them, how do you feel Fina compares? You all know my feelings on Fina, but to the other 4 characters we have left on the list, how do you compare her to them?
Fina, good girl.
My top 2 are Fina and Gojo.
Hmm.
Gojo's strong. Gojo's really strong.
So, this is going to be interesting because my top 2 are Junpei and Hoodlum.
Ho ho! My top 2 are Gojo and... Man, I'm stuck between Hoodlum and Fina, honestly. Instead of Fina, let's talk about Junpei really quick, shall we?
Sure thing.
I think Junpei is a fantastic character, both for the show as a narrative device, but also just fucking chill, chillingly relatable to anyone who has been in a similar situation.
His point in the narrative and his character overall is extremely relatable, extremely human, and fantastic. And he had a fantastic send off in episode 13 with the teacher and the bully.
Like, to this day, we still question if Junpei is dead, right? And he's going, if he is, especially, like, this has come up with, like, Adachi to Shimamura, so it's funny, right? Because, like, the things that they do that we most fear is what makes them really strong characters. If Junpei is dead, then, well, shit. Like, that's really tragic. But in terms of a character on his own, while I do think that he has a remarkable capacity for sympathy and empathy from both the audience and, of course, Itadori, that friendship that he fosters, that tragedy of him actually being like a really nice guy who really feels a lot of things and just really wants to just get along with people who have similar interests than him, and just how his unfortunate circumstances and the individuals that surround his life have made him miserable to the point where he, like, makes it packed with a curse. It's he's definitely a tragic character, and that pain can make him seem very important, but when you think about it in its entirety, the screen time he's used to great effect, but I don't think he's as complete or as man. I don't even know. I started empathizing with Junpei in my original argument that because he doesn't have as much presence in the story as other characters on the list, he isn't as good of a main character as a side character. But man, now I don't know.
You say that, but he gets 1 or 2 episodes all to himself, basically. Like, well, not 1 or 2 episodes, but he gets a lot of screen time to himself, just with Mahito, talking with him, interacting with him. Like, he gets flashbacks. He gets a lot of screen time, and he's used to better effect than Nobara, Fushiguro, Maki, any of the other side characters except maybe Gojo or Nanami. And I was kind of floating around in my head if we would count Junpei as an antagonist, but ultimately, at least of me, I didn't argue that because he's more of a side character.
He's also not really an antagonist. We always worry that he's going to go into the dark side, but by him going through the dark side, he actually became a massive support character.
Yeah, and his development, his place for Itadori's development was fantastic as well, but if you two feel more strongly of Gojo over Junpei, I'm willing to go with Gojo because he would be my second pick from Jujutsu.
Man, Gojo. I mean, Gilly, what do you think?
My opinion on Junpei will upset people.
Oh,
Uh oh.
I I don't even know if I can argue Junpei as a character.
Okay, now that I just what? Come on, what?
He only feels like a plot device to drive character development forward. He does not feel like a character to me.
I can see I can see why, but at the same time I personally disagree. He's still like I'm trying to word things. Well, he may have been used to drive character development forward. We still got it. It's not like Chibi. It wasn't like Chibi where he's done and gone in 1 episode. We get a clear build up and development of Junpei. He has a character arc, so to speak, and ultimately he does fall to show how in to essentially show the consequence of Mahito as a character, because Mahito, that was a chilling display. Like, I did not fear Mahito until Junpei got Nina Tuckered.
Yeah, but for me, the development and the build up for Junpei was to create this feeling of sympathy and sadness to even better drive forward the character development of Itadori. It just didn't feel like he had a real purpose other than just that. For me, that doesn't feel like a character. That just feels like a plot device.
Hmm. I see your argument, and I don't necessarily completely disagree. Hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, while I disagree with Gilly saying that he's not a character, his whole goal is his whole purpose is to drive character development. He does it in a I'll say it, an incredibly well manner. Uh, but unfortunately, yeah, I guess I don't know what it is. I don't know if Junpei needed more time or maybe even less time on screen to really come into his own. Because the reason why he's so effective on us is because he was taken out too soon. Like, he got taken out as we were warming up to him, as we were starting to understand him. The moment he has this this incredible breakdown that is so very easily empathized with, is the moment he quote like dies or not dies, gets taken out, and while the like it's exactly what I was saying. It's the pain of that moment can seem so strong, but like when Gilly put it that way, I kind of have to agree. Plus, Gojo is honestly a deeper and more fascinating character. I'm echoing off someone.
I Ruck made a comparison in the chat that I can't even disagree with.
I am okay. I'm willing to relinquish Junpei to Gojo because I I love Junpei. I love how he was handled. He's my favorite side character from this show just because I feel like he has more of a place than like he's more grounded and has more of a place at this moment than especially Nobara and to an extent Fushiguro.
I just
But
Gojo I would put far above because he's continually alt changing and affecting how Itadori does things in points that they keep flashing back to conversations we didn't even know happened yet because Gojo is very directly and continually influenced how Itadori has developed and has stood on his own multiple times as well, and he'll
yeah,
continue to be that for a good while. He's the teacher.
yeah, I I can't I can't disagree. So I will cut Junpei from this then.
Unfortunately,
So
but this does raise the opportunity to talk about Gojo.
yeah, Gojo is fantastic. Since the moment he shows up, sees Fushiguro beat the shit, and starts taking pictures, I loved him.
Gojo is just a very well thought out character, fitting a lot of interesting different aspects to him, being, you know, the being, the badass teacher character, but also being super comedic,
Mm-hmm.
relaxed, serious. He covers a lot of different aspects that he very fluidly moves between.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
he,
say a controversial opinion. Everyone keeps making Gojo's fucking Kakashi, and okay, yeah, he's really powerful. He's the mentor of the trio, and he wears a mask, but on his eyes instead of his instead of one eye and face. Gojo, fuck. I hate that they made those two names so goddamn similar.
Gojo is right.
Yeah. Gojo,
Gojo is right.
yeah, Gojo is Gojo is Kakashi if Kakashi had a personality that wasn't Sasuke.
Honestly, I make the comparison a lot. He reminds me a bit more of All Might than Kakashi, if I'm being completely honest. Just the lightheartedness mainly.
He has a really good character around him, being, there's like this level of levity, but also this really serious mentorship that he surprisingly strikes really well without really trying.
Yeah, like I don't know if I don't know if I'd say I like him more than All Might, but he does remind me a lot of All Might, and I think like All Might, he's the shonen mentor, but done extremely well. Like, and there are a lot of mentors in shonen, like Kakashi, Jiraiya, and while they all have their strengths, I think Gojo perfectly embodies
Yeah,
all of
they make
it.
they make the there's the whole comparison to Kakashi, but honestly, I don't. It's like if you go with a Naruto comparison, he's like somewhere between, like, you know, kind of reminds me of uh Minato,
Hmm,
like
that is very fair.
Naruto's father, because he got that seriousness and that but the joking from Jiraiya, and I think actually that's a decent comparison.
That is very true. Now I'm thinking about it, I guess Minato was just Kakashi, but done right. The more I think about it, I never got super far into Shippuden. I ended at the Ninja War arc. I'll be completely honest. I ended at the 4th Ninja War arc because I just couldn't carry on from there. And yeah, no, I can't disagree with you. Gojo is fantastic. Now, would you put Gojo as number 1?
That is a difficult question.
Because I would. And if Junpei is cut off the list, my 2 would be Gojo and Hoodlum.
Like, I think, honestly, from everything, I have a feeling it's probably going to end up being Gojo.
Now,
Because for me, the only one I can really there's characters in this I really like, but the only other one I put right up there at the top is Fina from Kuma Bear, because it doesn't feel like we'd even have the main character we do in Kuma Bear without her,
yeah,
like, at
yeah.
all. I don't think Yuna would be Yuna without Fina.
I mean, she straight up says it in the finale.
Yeah, she does. She says it right in the finale, and a majority of Yuna's development into the character that she is directly related to Fina.
And you guys know how I feel about Fina. So I'll present this question to you. How do you think Fina is on her own then? Would you think there would be a Fina without Yuna?
Yeah, you beat me to it. As much as I agree with you, Gilly, I'm hearing you talk and I'm thinking and I'm like, yeah, absolutely, there would be no Yuna without Fina, but is there really a Fina without Yuna?
Not particularly, because the whole point of Fina even being the way she is because Yuna grabbed her up her her like private heart monster
Harvester, yeah,
harvester,
yeah.
and it just developed her character through that.
Did we nominate Fina and Yuna as best couple?
Let me see the list.
I'm looking at it. We did not.
No.
Oh well, nothing's stopping us from adding a last minute, nomination.
Well, we'll see. We can talk about that when we get there. But yeah, because if I'm looking at this without bias and purely objectively, I have to agree, and that even makes me rethink my whole nomination because I think Brawler would stands on his own more than. Yeah, this is a difficult category.
Yep. That's the thing I was gonna say when you guys were talking about Gojo. I'm like, yeah, Gojo being number 1 is a pretty good option, but hear me out. Brawler.
The thing with
Brawler
Gojo and
and Brawler and Hoodlum are both good supporting characters, but my only issue with the two of them is they are very good supporting characters of each other.
That's okay. So I both agree
true.
and disagree with this. Uh, I think we all have come to love Hoodlum by the end of the show, but
I always did, but yes.
we collectively came to love Hoodlum by the end of the show. Yes, you did love him first. Don't worry, Hoodlum is yours. I do think Brawler, while is the best with Hoodlum, is still utterly amazing on his own. Hoodlum is a character, much like Junpei and other characters we talked about, needs other people to play off of. That's straight up his archetype. Like in the beginning, he literally picked the one to play off of. Brawler, on the other hand, we have adored from episode 1 and was incredible and is still probably the saddest character death in the whole show, if not the whole season. Wait, no. Junpei is probably sadder than Brawler, but Brawler really comes close to Junpei.
It was the most impactful.
Yeah.
I would say. Of Akudama Drive. It was the most impactful of Akudama Drive.
Yeah, Brawler's definitely the most impactful and saddest one of. I don't know. Swindler's death was pretty fucking impactful.
What I have to say about this is in the beginning, when we're first introduced to everybody, Brawler for me was perfect as a standalone character. But after him and Hoodlum actually developed their relationship, I legitimately cannot see one without the other at all. Like once their relationship was developed, it kind of made me feel like he did not shine like I thought he did by himself.
You are right, because the only way he got to shine, the only reason he got to shine after that without Hoodlum was in the fight, and even then, Hoodlum was a everlasting presence. But at the same time, I would also say how fantastic Brawler's death was handled does lead to how good the character was.
Yep.
So, what I'm hearing here is Gojo's not. Are we agreed? Gojo number 1.
I don't know. That's the thing. I am really stuck on Gojo and Brawler in my mind. And while we've discussed a lot of good things, I think we need to give everyone their due. You know, we should talk more about Hoodlum as well as Hoodlum v Brawler, and we should get back to Fina. In my personal mind, it is still Brawler and Gojo. With actually, oh man, that is the hardest choice for me. That is the hardest choice for me.
We should talk about Fina a bit more because I'm gonna say this. My number 1 is Gojo, but at this point I am stuck between Hoodlum and Brawler. Now I'm thinking about it. For runner up for me at least.
It's a little rough to talk about Hoodlum v Brawler because Brawler's impact is literally in the first half of the show, and I don't know. Brawler's impact and presence is literally the first half of the show, and fucking Hoodlum shines his best at the end of the show. So when you look at it on a linear line, it's hard to look apart. But when you just think about the moments that each of them had together and separate of each other from the timeline, I still go Brawler.
I also think it speaks to the show's quality, how it felt like after Brawler died, the show was missing something.
I think it speaks to Brawler as a character, yeah.
As much as I didn't like the death, I'll be honestly, of the two of them, I had a lot like the Brawler fight and the Brawler death. It was fitting. It felt right for him.
Yeah.
I personally lean more into Hoodlum, honestly, only because Hoodlum's final moments was the true growth that had been building there, that he started to lean away from after Brawler died and went straight back into, and proved that he can make his big brother proud. His brother
That is
proud.
true.
But I would also argue that the strongest Hoodlum moments, I would argue, are still due to Brawler's influence. So as such, Brawler even has an influence through Hoodlum.
This is why I'm torn between Hoodlum and Brawler. Hoodlum had more development overall, and yes, while it was due to Brawler, at the same time, that doesn't invalidate the development that he got. Because ultimately, character development has to happen because of another character.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about Hoodlum's development. He went from being my least favorite character to like one of my favorite characters of the show. For those of you who followed along every episode, you guys would have seen me literally from week to week to go from just like, okay, yeah, Hoodlum, comic relief, to being like, come on, buddy, yeah, go, that's right, boy. he took out Doctor. He had this amazing like little self mini arc in like an episode and a half. Hoodlum is remarkable because he's gone from just a comic relief character to having emotional depth and actual. He himself, his like through this like rambunctious low tier Akudama became this like emotionally involved, real, caring, like he became his own character within the story but also literally within the world. Like he himself found himself, and that's always great to see. That being said, I saying all of that and going back to thinking about Brawler's energy, Brawler's humor, Brawler's influence on different characters and how different characters interacted with him, and as well as just Brawler's solo scenes, still just. I think I've just decided when it comes to Brawler v Hoodlum, I unfortunately have to cast my vote towards Brawler. Now, Brawler v Gojo we can get back to, but Hoodlum has had fantastic moments at the end. Funny moments that only egged Brawler on to be even better than he was during Brawler's lifetime, and then after Brawler's passing in the show, Hoodlum kind of rose up, which is great. You love to see it happen. The younger brother takes the older brother's place, or the son takes the father's place, but it still always comes back to Brawler for me.
The more I think about it, the more I'm leaning towards Hoodlum with Gilly. I'm sorry, it's just... I don't know what it is, but the more I think about it, by such a slim margin, maybe because Hoodlum is more of a presence in the show, I can't see Brawler without Hoodlum, but I can see Hoodlum without Brawler because we got that. Because we got to see that and see how that unfolded, and it was done expertly well, and his last moment was doing a little bit of good and served to the most fitting character death in that show of Doctor getting trampled over with beneath people's boots, no one knowing who she is or caring who she is. I'd have to give it up to Hoodlum over Brawler for me. How about you, Gilly?
Yeah, Gilly, go first.
I don't really know what much more I can say from what I've said previous to this.
I'm mainly just asking. You're for Hoodlum over Brawler, right?
Before Gilly, you give your final take on this, I want to make one final argument. Now, I'll say this: like, if the vote is going Hoodlum over Brawler, I will not filibust. I will not stand in the way of that and hold up this award longer than that. But I will argue that you said, Meep, that you've seen Hoodlum without Brawler, but like that's the thing, right? Like Hoodlum is fresher in the mind, uh, and Hoodlum, like by design, had like more time to kind of come into fruition and be his own character, while Brawler was this kind of entire man, this entire character, this whole man's from the start. And if you think about like the first half of the season and how excited we were about Brawler every time he was on screen, and how every Akudama Drive episode was him on the stream, and we always featured a screenshot of him and a line of his and a moment of his, and we always like brought it back to Brawler because he was our boy. And Hoodlum accented and made Brawler better. Sure, he let him shine because he just let Brawler be this buddy dumbass with his Aniki, but at the end, Brawler was always much more self-sufficient and independent as a character, which I think is a strength to his. And I just don't want us to forget how great Brawler was because we didn't see him for 6 episodes.
I still know he was really good. He wouldn't be on this. We wouldn't be debating him as heavily as if we didn't remember how good he was. It's just ultimately Hoodlum has the edge of having more episodes to have been there, having more episodes to grow, develop, be a presence, and show character. Like, he had more opportunity to show his character, especially after Brawler died. We got to see many different facets of him, whereas with Brawler we got to see a few facets, but Hoodlum we got to see multiple. We got seeing that moment where Hoodlum stood on his own and gave Pupil that scar is chilling. And while we wouldn't have had that without Brawler, that was all Hoodlum. His anger, his rage. I have to give it to Hoodlum. That scene especially, just avenging his bro.
What do you think, chat? Hoodlum or Brawler for best side character? Drop it in chat and in the comments below. Like I said, I'm not gonna filibust on this anymore. I've said my piece. Gilly, has my argument swayed you, or
Brawler was a character that came in basically already developed, already at his peak, that that got uh that got just a little bit of extra added on to him with the influence of another character of Hoodlum, just bringing even more out of what he already had developed from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Hoodlum was a character that had very little going for him other than just being a jokester, that got developed into a big character through the influence. He changed very much. By the end, he was barely the same character, and
Mm-hmm.
that was why I find it so strong with him. He'd had such a severe change for the better. It took him a while, and it took him some difficult, like, internal struggling, but he made it.
Yeah, the only thing I could have seen better is if Hoodlum survived throughout the entire show, so we could just see a little bit more of that. But other than that,
you mean
I
Brawler?
have to give the edge to Hoodlum.
You mean if Brawler survived more of the show?
No, if Hoodlum survived more of the show, and we could see a little bit more of how he handles himself after avenging Brawler's death.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't mind Hoodlum. I think Hoodlum is stronger with Brawler, but we'll get to that in the Best Couples award. But if you guys feel like Hoodlum stands alone stronger, and stronger than Brawler standing alone, and the vote is 2-1, I shall concede.
Right. A character that you guys haven't talked much about is Fina, and I feel if you two still want to talk about her a little bit, you can.
Thank you, Master.
I I want her here really badly, but I'm I'm willing to concede that if I have to.
Fina's got a knife. Fina's great. Fina is great. She has multiple functions. One, to introduce Yuna and, by extent, us to the world, to the city and everything. She plays a great Emoto, little sister character, like really wholesome. She plays also to have she's the focal point of the, as while Yuna is our focal point on experiencing the world, Fina is the world's focal point to reacting to Yuna. But and again, the show pulls like a couple of really dark moments with Fina where it's like her mom is dying and she has to like take care of this baby sister, and it's everything. And Fina is really like just she's a good girl. She's just a really swell kid who's really capable, and like they never say it outright, or like they say it once or twice, but they don't harp on it where it's like, oh, Fina, you're like, they say it once, right? Fina, you're incredible. You're so self-sufficient. You're brave. You've been training and working so hard. And Fina says like, yeah, because I don't know how long my mom's gonna be around, and that's fucking real for, again, Kuma Kuma Kumber, which is why it won my best surprise award, personal award. That being said, yeah, the show doesn't harp on it. That being said, when you compare her to the likes of Gojo, Brawler, and Hoodlum, it's just, this isn't what the show's about. While within the show, she's a fantastic character, and someone's slapping stuff in the back. While and now I'm echoing off of someone. Is that me?
Shouldn't be.
While she is a fantastic character in her own right, especially in this show, and the ending scene where everything comes really full circle in this like emotionally honest manner between her and Yuna, I don't know about you, Gilly. Like I think you feel the same way. There's really nothing to be argued for here when compared to like the Akudama reps and Gojo.
Like, I don't think Kuma Bear would be near as good as it is without her, but I can't really argue for her against these other characters. Like, the show needs her. It needs her to be the way it is. But I can't argue for her as the best.
It's tough. It's really hard to be objective because we have how many, what, 8 characters here, and they're
Yeah.
incredibly good in their own rights.
Like, my strong feelings about Fina is just because the show legitimately it needs Fina. Like, there's so many characters to Kuma Bear, but if Fina was not there, I don't think I would have had the same enjoyment I got out of it.
From a narrative device point, I agree with you. Like from a design standpoint, I completely agree with you. But I would propose this: if Fina wasn't Fina, could she be replaced by any of the other characters? Is Fina indispensable from the show?
I I would say yeah. The other characters just don't really stand up in the way that Fina does in affecting the story, the our main character and the world around her.
Fuck it,
I don't think it,
kill
I don't
Fina
think anyone
off. Bring in
else.
Shuri.
Shuri is an adorable little child that acts like an adorable little child,
Yeah.
As much as I
as
hate the
well
show,
as well as most of the other characters. Fina's one of the small children that Yuna attaches to that actually does a lot more than just being, cute child that like bear.
as much as I hate the show, I have to agree the show wouldn't be the same without Fina. And while I think that would be a good thing that it wouldn't be the same without Fina, it wouldn't be the same without Fina.
It's
I mean, without Fina, the show would just be like sarcastic, like
Fina would have barely had any growth without Fina.
exactly. It would just be like sarcastic protagonist gets isekai'd and is really smart and rich and overpowered and just destroys
She
stuff.
would maintain the personality she had right at the beginning, where she continues to treat everybody like they're still NPCs. She's really grown out of that. It's still kind of there, usually with nobles, but for the most part, she's grown out of that personality trait. And she needed Fina really to do that because Fina helped real is a real good realization for her that, like, yeah, these are people, not NPCs.
This is hard. This is difficult. You can't see me, but I literally just ran my hands through my hair, like back, cause
The thing for me is that, and again, I didn't like the show, so I have this bias, but I don't I don't know if they stack up against Hoodlum or Gojo.
that's what I mean, personally, my ranking from lowest to highest is Hoodlum, Fina, Brawler, and Gojo on top. Um, because I think while Hoodlum has this amazing growth in the second half of the season, Hoodlum could have easily been replaced with anyone in the beginning that just would like suck up the Brawler. Fina,
I disagree with that. I don't see Courier sucking up to Brawler or anything like that.
oh no, I
I
meant with
don't.
Hoodlum was barely a character in the beginning. He could have been replaced with any other person who acted like him.
That's why well, same thing with Brawler. Brawler could have been any other meathead.
No, I don't like meathead characters, but Brawler was just for those of you who are listening who follow my D&D playthroughs or who've ever or are my players or who've ever played with a character called Galoon Stormchaser. Uh Galoon Stormchaser. The best thing is that like he's the kind of meathead that's just he's dumb as a brick house, but he means so well. And he's just like doing his thing and just having his good. He's like just looking for his good fight. Like there are plenty of like barbarian, meathead, berserker characters, and I do enjoy them, but like nowhere near to the amount that I did Brawler. But in regards to Fina, she's integral to the show. However, it's hard to say because Hoodlum, Brawler, and Gojo are objectively better, more interesting, better written characters. Just, I think Gojo wins number one because if you took Gojo out of Jujutsu Kaisen, it would
Wouldn't be the
not
same.
be a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would not
He's
work.
like, here's the thing. He kind of fit. Like, there's the arguments for Hoodlum and Brawler as being the more interesting characters. The argument for Fina for being more integral. Gojo kind of fits both of those because without him, he's very interesting, and without him, we would not have the same show or the same main character.
Yeah. As well, he's integral to the story because they even tease, oh, we'll lock him away on Halloween at Shibuya.
Man,
Like we wouldn't be having the same story beat.
Like,
imagine.
honestly, from the beginning of this with these characters, I was already pretty much set myself that of putting Gojo as number one. It's two that I've been trying to figure out in my head.
Yeah, the runner up here is incredibly difficult, and I think the only thing that is going to be harder than this category is the best couples category.
Oh no, I think there's gonna be a bloodbath for best episode.
Okay. I'll just say it now. I don't really care about best episode because of how great this season was. Um, did we have best moment for our personal categories?
No, because there'd be way too many to choose from.
Oh, can I just go on record now and say what my favorite moment of the season of the host of the fall autumn 2020 season is?
Sure.
The fight in Akudama Drive episode 2 still blows me away to this day. If you haven't seen it, if you're just hanging out in the show just to see our thoughts or just hanging out with us, we appreciate you. Do yourself a favor and go see the fight in Akudama Drive episode 2.
I still think Episode 6 had the better fight.
I never brought this up because I didn't think about it until like a week or so ago. But when you think about the fight from episode 2 and then you think about his final fight versus Master, when you start comparing and looking at them, you can actually realize that while he is fighting his heart out, there are things that seem off about how he doesn't seem to be fighting to the same capacity almost.
Yeah, he was holding back
Because
then.
because episode 2 showed I brought it up when we talked about it, but Brawler had a fucking ultra instinct moment of he's blocking attacks, but the second that blade comes close to him, that is an immediate dodge and no more blocks.
Yeah.
His fighting instinct is through the fucking roof. There's no he knows immediately how to treat something that changes what's happening in the fight. And you see less of that in the final fight, which shows that there's something off. He's definitely not fighting in the way that he should be.
Yeah.
Then you get farther in and realize how he was weakened, it makes sense. It all sort of fits together like
Yeah,
little
because
puzzle pieces.
in episode 4, their second fight, he was fearful. And then later on, we learn Doctor stitched up his wound bad, so it would reopen. So
Such a good show. Such a good character. You know what?
For I'm just gonna say right now, these supporting characters, as much as I don't want to, again, I'm fully willing to just
Hold on. Before you say
act.
this, Gilly, before you say this, I'm going to throw a wild card out there and say Gojo number 1, Fina runner up.
That is what I want, but I don't see that happening. See that I don't see that happen.
We had a surprising amount of things to say about Fina at the end of everything right now. And honestly, like, Hoodlum and Brawler are turning to be two sides of the same great show coin. I am okay with whoever takes the runner up spot, but just for the fun of it, Gojo number 1, Fina is the runner up.
Here's the thing. You say that you had a lot of stuff to say about her, and you did, but a lot of it was how she and Yuna are basically two sides of the same coin, and how a lot of it is just like with Adachi and Shimamura, they're two parts of the same whole. It's
That is
I think Hoodlum stands on his own much better than Fina ever could.
That is a good argument.
Here's
I
my
said,
argument.
I want Fina up there, but I'm fully willing to just let that one go and go into Hoodlum.
Yeah, because
And you
my
guys are.
whole argument here. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say my full argument for Hoodlum as opposed to Fina is Gojo stands on his own, very good, and he also bounces off of characters, very good. And I think Hoodlum bounces off of Brawler fantastically, and
Very
he
well.
stands on his own fantastically. And it is hard to compare them because they're two very different shows, but the development we see of Hoodlum and the things he contributes to the show, I think, heavily outweigh with Fina, but that's me.
And you guys are adamant about Hoodlum over Brawler, right?
I
I
am very
I
adamant.
I really am. I've always I've from the beginning had a love for Hoodlum because he was just fun uh, and just enjoyable to be around. And it's just his development over time, his change of character to becoming less of a coward, and his finale that is just it's too much for me to not put him ahead.
In that case, I think we have our choices.
Congratulations, Fall 2020. Best supporting characters. Our runner-up, Hoodlum from Akudama Drive, and our winner, Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, we will be taking a short break here, and once we get back, we will get back with the next category.
All right.
Well,
Stay tuned. We'll be
yeah, I
back in a quick jump.